Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Covenant Army Podcast, where our mission is to equip couples to align with God and win the daily battle raging against marriage and family. I am Brent, and I'm here again with my beautiful wife, Miss Lucy.
Hello, beautiful audience.
Guys, today we're going to be talking about the same but different. Because normally you come off talking just about marriage, but we want to talk about dating. Starting off with dating, because let's just be honest, dating comes before marriage, right? Or if you're a little more old-fashioned, maybe it's called courting. Does anybody even use that term anymore?
Well, I think there's a difference.
What?
I think courting is like it's a more intentional type of, I don't want to say dating, 'cause it's different.
So it is dating.
It's a more intentional, like courting is like you're really.
So it's dating on steroids, right?
No,
It's not. What is it then?
I know it's different. I'm
What do you
gonna
mean you know it's
find
different?
I'm gonna find the difference for you.
I know what you're saying. There's a purpose behind
like
courting.
Like courting is more purposeful. Like you're intentionally looking at this person for the purpose of marriage. Like
Okay.
like
but isn't that what dating's supposed to be?
kind of, but a lot of people just what do they call it? Casually dating. They just casually date here and there.
With no purpose.
Okay, so an example. I'm gonna give you an example.
Give me an example.
You know what the Stallone family, is that what it's called? That show,
It's not Stallone family. What is that called?
the family Stallone.
Yeah.
Okay, something like that. Whatever it's called. It's Rocky's family.
Rocky. Hey,
Yeah.
Yo, Rocky.
Yeah, Rocky's family. So he's got a daughter
Yeah.
that loves to date.
Okay.
And she is literally just dating different random guys.
Speed dating. Yeah, there is a thing where she does speed dating.
Okay, she does that to some degree, and then she goes here and she dates these guys. And
Mhm.
so she is literally just dating. I don't know if she's being very purposeful. Even though I know deep down when a girl's dating somebody,
There's a purpose.
they're in their mind, they want to find somebody that's like that forever person for them.
Correct. So do you think that's true? Like women and men approach dating very differently?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, you can't say everyone.
I mean, you're a guy.
But I mean, as a whole, men and women typically approach dating with different intentions.
Yeah, in my lifetime, I don't think I've had friends, meaning like girls,
Yeah.
that have dated without purpose, that
Okay.
have just dated just to date. That's why I brought up that show, because that one girl, I see her like just randomly dating different guys, and she just loves dating, because she says that a lot. She loves to date.
Yeah.
But haven't really seen her be very intentional about who she's dating. She's just randomly dating different people, and maybe she'll hit one, right? Will she finally find the one?
Well, she's looking for some sort of spark or something that she's looking for in these dates. Is
Right.
what I would say.
So I don't know, dating. When you think about dating now, does that
You mean like in today's culture?
right?
Yeah.
There is purposeful dating, which is what I would probably call more courting. Or
Yeah.
does it change? Does it go from like you're dating to where you find this person that you think could be the one, and then now it becomes more of a courtship because now it's a little bit more serious? Is that maybe how it? Because I just see as dating and courting kind of seem like different to me.
I don't know, because you see some people that wait a long time to even get to the point of marriage. I'm talking years.
Okay.
So technically, they would still be dating,
But-
without really the intention of being married.
Okay, so have you met someone that has been dating for 5 or 6 years? That doesn't even seem right to me.
Well, because it's not right.
Well,
Let's just
because
be honest.
at that point, okay,
'Cause
definitely.
What are we really doing? If we're together for 5 or 6 years, is this really going anywhere?
Well, and that's what I mean. Like, when does dating turn into courting? Because the courtship season is literally like this is very intentional. I'm seeking for those marriage qualities now. Like, is this person going to be good for me? And maybe looking at the different areas, right, that you study people for.
Study. I love it.
Financial.
That's a woman right there.
Financial,
Studying.
like, do you want kids? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What does career look like? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think it would be different in different stages of life. So let's just say a 16-year-old that may be, air quotes, dating, right? Because really, what kind of dating are you doing at 16? You're kind of hanging out. with someone. It probably is not thinking about. I don't know. You tell me. I've never been a 16-year-old female.
That's good to know.
Is this, marriage material? I'm keeping it kind of straight. That's really straight through the front door. Is this marriage material? Probably not thinking that at 16.
No.
Maybe not at 17.
But even at 16 and
18,
17, a girl is, in her mind, kind of envisioning what this would be like if you were to be the one, like the guy that she's dating in high school.
Okay.
Right? Like,
so can she picture herself being married to this?
Right. You start
man.
picturing that. You start envisioning that. And then you start looking for those qualities that you think you want.
Okay.
Right?
What's
I don't
those
know
qualities?
Is it the same for a guy at 16?
It wasn't for me. I don't know.
Okay.
I can't speak for all men, but for me at 16, I wasn't thinking that far ahead. Like, oh, is this a woman that one day I want to marry?
Right.
And I think, to be honest with you, that wasn't even on my horizon. I never heard that kind of thought process. It wasn't really something that was in front of me.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Nobody ever talked about, like, is it date to find out if this is going to be the woman you want to marry.
So
in my culture,
yeah,
my surroundings, don't laugh.
I'm not
in
laughing.
my surroundings, right? That wasn't something on the forefront.
Okay. So
at all. So dating for me was,
having
there was
fun?
a purpose, but yeah, I didn't want to be alone. So I wanted to find someone that I could have a partnership or companionship with.
So, but it wasn't necessarily for the thought of getting married.
No, not at all. Not
Okay.
at that age. At some point, obviously, when I got older, it became that. Like,
well, it does become more serious when you get older. But for women, at least, like for me, I'm, because I'm not every woman, I'm me.
right.
Thinking about me at that age, 16, 17. Yeah, well, he's cute. I wonder how, he is as a boyfriend kind of thing. Then you start kind of seeing each other and dating. And then as you date a few times, you're like, oh, you start to wonder, like, could this be something long term? So it is different for boys and girls. But then, once you start dating somebody, which you date for how long? How long would be normal to date somebody? Because you're right. When you talk to somebody that's like, oh, yeah, we've been dating for 5 years. Like,
But it's not really going anywhere.
I kind of like my eye starts twitching when somebody says that, because it's like, why?
What are you doing? I think the question is, what are you guys doing? Like,
Yeah.
Where is this going? That's what I said. It's not going anywhere.
Right.
It's kind of stagnant.
So at 5 years, I would already say, like.
But again, I think that's because at the beginning of these relationships, people don't have like a sense of gauging, is this moving forward or is this kind of stagnant or is it going backwards?
So you don't think they have a checklist?
Well, I guess if you want to call it a checklist, I'm calling it like
understand.
mile markers to know that we're heading down the road a little bit. There's nothing really to gauge it at. And I think a lot of times that can set you up for disaster when you get into a serious relationship, because this may not be going where you think it's going because you have no indicators what the right way is.
Okay. So we have casual dating versus purposeful dating or courting.
I was going to say, so I think we've identified that dating per se is different than courtship.
Correct.
But I think courtship is very important when dating. I think
Yes.
courtship is on the forefront of dating, in my opinion, or it should be, right? Because why do you want to spend time with someone that you really don't see a future with?
Some people do, though. Some people date
I know
to
you
just
do, but why?
I
For a
don't know.
short-term pleasure? Like for short-term pleasure, like I got nothing better to do, so I'm going to hang out with you for just a little bit. Maybe that's okay. I don't know. But what I'm saying is that if that's not the case and you do want something more serious, you have to have something that can gauge, to kind of have some mile markers. Is this the person that I can go the long haul with?
Okay.
Okay. I've lost you a little bit. What happened?
No, you have not.
So the topic that we want to talk about today wasn't about dating to courtship, even though we went down that rabbit hole, is the difference between infatuation and love. The difference between infatuation and love.
Which starts with either dating or courtship, where
Well-
you get into that, when you finally get into that, where people say, oh, I'm in love.
Well, I think for a lot of people, that's kind of their gauge. Could this be the person?
Right.
In essence,
The feeling.
like the show we were watching with the family Stallone. You heard the girl talking, she went on the dates, and she'd be there for maybe 5 minutes, and she's like, yeah, this is not the guy. Because she wasn't feeling the feeling
Right.
of whatever it is that she's
There's
gauging.
no connection. There's no connection.
There's no connection, but she wasn't feeling that.
Right.
So check, he's gone. Right? So if you're basing everything on a feeling, and we've talked about this before, like feelings are fickle. They can lie to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something that can look real good can feel real good, but is it really good? It could actually be something really not good for you.
But okay. So there is such a thing also as intuition.
Okay.
Like when you're standing in front of somebody, and I just feel like God gives you these like spidey senses where
We could call that the Holy Spirit, but if you want to go to spidey senses, I get what you're saying.
you know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
Like you start to sense like,
There's something in your spirit.
right.
Yeah.
That, like for us, when I first saw your picture, because obviously we met online
Mm-hmm.
many moons back.
Yeah.
There was no swiping left or right. We didn't do any Tinder or any of that mess. It was way long ago. However, there was something that I saw in your picture that captured my attention.
Okay. That was visual.
Yeah, and I always say there was a genuineness about your face, and it just made me, I was intrigued. I wanted to meet you. I wanted to know what that was.
Okay.
And when I met you in
So
person,
you never seen anyone like me before.
I've never had that feeling.
Really?
And I was doing the online dating thing for just a minute. It wasn't long,
Right.
but I never had that feeling with anybody's picture.
Interesting.
Yours was just, there was a unique sense that I needed to meet you, which of course now, you know, fast forward to today, I know it was God leading us to each other. So when I met you and we sat down for dinner and I started asking you the questions, and more of that feeling of genuineness came over me, like there was a connection, a genuine connection with you. And in my spirit that day, I knew that this was going to be a long-term relationship. Like that day I could tell.
So you were saying more than a feeling.
Yeah, there was more than a feeling.
That's
Are we going to break open into
more than a feeling? Yeah.
I was waiting for that.
Probably heard that on the Dove.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
So, but I had that, like, there was an overwhelming sense of genuineness and connection that I just knew you were different.
Okay. So to say all that, right? Looking at dating, looking at courting, and having intentionality
Mm-hmm.
when you're going into these things. Yes, in your case, that driver, not the driver, but the power from the Holy Spirit helping lead you in that conversation, helping lead you in that connection, per se.
That's what I feel it was, because
Right.
it was very different than anything that I had experienced before.
But for someone that may be not aware of the Holy Spirit or know really what that feeling is, or if it could be something other than, it could be misleading.
Which leads us into the difference between infatuation and love.
I think it's important that we talk about this so people can have a better understanding the difference between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can be confusing. Like they can,
Very confusing.
if you're really thinking about it, like, how do you know the difference between infatuation and love? Right? Because if we were to describe love, right, there's a lot of many different definitions of love, right? From the world standard.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always say, well, I love pizza or I love calzones. Like there is a longing that I have.
I want to know why every
experience-
conversation has to lead to a calzone with you. Please enlighten me.
I just got to say that they're awesome. A good calzone. But anyway, that's not what we're here about.
Mm.
But just understanding the difference between those feelings and emotions to make sure that you can understand the difference. Because obviously loving a calzone and loving you, which is way better,
I would hope.
right? May use the same word, but doesn't have the same meaning. It
Right.
doesn't mean the same, which is the same thing, I think, with infatuation and love. So let's get into this before we go much further.
Yeah.
To kind of start to see some of the differences. And we're going to kind of do like this versus that
Okay.
so people can understand. So we're going to start with infatuation and what that kind of looks like, that, and then what love looks like. Does that make sense? Okay. So infatuation, the first point is infatuation is very sudden. Like there's that, you always hear people say, I fell in love. Like I saw her and I knew from the first moment,
yeah.
she was the one.
Mm-hmm.
That's very sudden. Now there could have been an attraction there.
That wasn't what you felt when we met? I'm confused.
What do you mean? Now, you caught me off guard there. I wasn't ready for that.
I shared with you
Yes.
how I felt
Yes.
that day. Like there was probably after
Good.
after talking for a few hours that night. I will say that probably that night I had that feeling, probably infatuation.
Okay.
But in the back of my mind, I remember that just the word genuine was always there.
I appreciate that because after our first meeting, I didn't think you liked me. So
That wasn't the question, but did you
probably a little
like
different feeling?
did you like me?
Yes, I liked you, but if I didn't think you liked me, I mean, it was kind of
You were just going to put it away.
I wasn't gonna put it away, but I didn't know how far this was gonna go. It wasn't looking real promising at that moment. But again, that was feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, 17 years later, my feelings were lying to me in that moment, right? Because that's a clear example.
Because you didn't think that I liked you because I didn't give you a kiss before you left after our very first date.
I don't think it was just that. Let's not go down the rabbit hole. We're getting off of what we're trying to talk about.
Okay.
Here. So infatuation is very sudden. It's that you walked right into it and it kind of smacked you in the face, like boom, sudden. Whereas love is more gradual.
Yeah.
Love it's a choice, right? First and foremost, love is a choice, but it comes with like a gradual growing. How would you put it?
The love, I guess, manifests after time and maturity of that infatuation. It matures into love.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can say I love you more today than I loved you the day I met you.
Of course.
Right?
Like, well, obviously, you didn't really like me because I'm just messing with you. I know the story. I was there.
The point is like, there's a much deeper love now.
Mm-hmm.
Like now, obviously, it's not infatuation anymore.
Right.
It's not sudden. It's not like emotions that come and go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a constant. It's
it becomes more constant. It's not just like the butterfly feeling that people feel, that honeymoon phase that people describe.
Right.
It's more than that.
It's much deeper, and it's been gradually growing as we are doing life and doing marriage together.
So I like how they describe it here, where it says infatuation is an expression of excessive admiration or foolish love void of sound judgment.
Correct. It's intoxicating, and that's the way we share it with a lot of people. Like when you first meet someone, be careful because there could be a moment of intoxication. Like it can literally like overtake you where you're not thinking clearly anymore.
That's the infatuation.
You're not. You don't have sound judgment, and you're doing things you normally wouldn't do.
Right.
Right. And again, it's that sudden thing. It's like the quick fix.
That's why a lot of people like probably get married very quickly at the beginning. Sometimes when they're in that feeling, like, oh man, like I love the way this person makes me feel. I
never want it to end.
Right. I could just marry him right now,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people do.
They do.
And then when
they wake up the next morning, they're like, whoa. How did I get here?
Yeah.
So the second point is infatuation is highly emotional. Highly emotional. Whereas love is faithfully consistent. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm trying to think back to see how long that infatuation phase actually sticks, and when it kind of moves into that love, that genuine love, that it's no longer the infatuation feelings and intoxication.
Well, I personally think it could be different for every person. It could be different for every person because if you really think about it, infatuation is driven by chemicals within our body, right? And with any chemical that you have, you kind of get immune to them at a certain point where it doesn't quite have that same effect on you. So eventually you start to become tolerant of it and it starts to kind of level out a little bit.
That's when you have to work at building.
Well, that's where the faithfully consistent comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
Because no longer am I just doing it because I feel like it. I'm doing it because I want to do it.
You're
and I'm making a
to
choice to do it.
Right.
But again, I think it's different for each person how long that time frame is. But I do think, when we've heard it, like typically it's about a year and a half to 2 years that the honeymoon stage is over.
Right.
And this is kind of a broad brush.
A lot of people get scared when we tell them that.
They do. But this is the point. It doesn't have to. And that's where this comes into play. Because if you can stay consistent and intentional,
right,
and faithfully doing the things that you're doing in the beginning of the relationship, it never ends. Like in our relationship, babe, I feel like every day is our honeymoon.
Well, I was going to say, for those relationships that really like where you put in the work and you educate yourselves about each other and you continue to grow together, that feeling that you had at the beginning is like magnified when you're actually in love with the person. And in love, not meaning like where people just like to throw that out there. Oh, I'm in love with them. No. Like deep intimate love connection that you have with this person, those feelings, those butterfly feelings, like that excitement is always there.
Mhm.
It's always there. I'm not saying you don't have certain days where you're kind of like distracted with work or whatever, but they keep coming back. They don't go away
Mhm.
because we intentionally have to feed that, right? As we grow together. So that faithfully consistent
Mhm.
it's an energy that you put into the relationship to continue to grow it. And it's no longer that feeling kind of,
It's not emotional driven.
yeah.
Not just based on emotion. So today I feel good, I'm going to love you. Tonight I don't feel good, I'm not going to show you love anymore. Not really what it really is, right? So the next point is infatuation's idealistic.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on these ideas, and a lot of these ideas come from movies,
Fantasy,
novels,
you mean fantasy?
fantasies, like these ideas and these pictures in our mind of how things are supposed to be. And that's what's driving the infatuation, right? But love is realistic.
Mm.
Why is it realistic? Because the truth is, you have to work at relationships. It doesn't just happen.
Right.
Even those people that you kind of have that infatuation feeling with, it's because something is taking place, something is happening, which is driving the train.
Well, I think I mean, maybe that's how God meant it to be. Like, you have to be able to feel those feelings in the infatuation honeymoon phase, right?
To a degree.
To make that connection with somebody that makes you want to commit to that person long term.
Yes. I think it's like the initial attraction, but I don't know if it's necessarily infatuation. And I think you got to know the difference between, like, again, know the difference between the two, that you're not misled.
Well, here's the thing, because the attraction is at the beginning.
That's
like,
what I mean.
that's what makes you want to talk to
The
somebody.
initial attraction, correct.
Then it goes into the infatuation. You everybody goes through it. You go through that infatuation, that fantasy world where everything is perfect. You're so great and wonderful. There's nothing wrong with you. I could be with you forever. I don't have to talk to anybody else ever. I just want to talk to you and look at you and be in this bubble.
And spend hours. Well, it used to be hours on the phone.
Hours
nowadays.
on the phone.
I don't know what we do nowadays. What do people do nowadays?
What do you mean?
Well, back in the day, you used to.
Well,
sit
now
on the
you see
phone.
that, the kids,
They're not
they'll
gonna
put
call anyone anymore.
FaceTime. Well, some of them will do
Yeah.
FaceTime, but they're not really looking at each other. Like the phone is set somewhere, and that person's there, and then you're somewhere else with the FaceTime.
I think
is
it's
on.
probably crazy texting or something.
And crazy texting.
And with the short little acronyms they use for everything now, and even use full words.
But I feel like it's very intentional, something that God put in us to go through that honeymoon phase that kind of connects you more, makes you want to commit to that person for long term.
But on the love side, the realistic side, is that you're going to have to put in the work. But the benefits are awesome.
Right.
Right? And you're doing it, again, out of choice and because you want to do it. Even when you don't feel like it, you still do it. That's what true love is. And it's not infatuation at that point. The next thing that infatuation has described as, again, it's based on a feeling. It's based on a feeling and an emotion. Again, that's in the driver's seat. It's kind of leading the way. And love is based on commitment. Two different things. Is our relationship based on merely feelings, or is it based on commitment? Because it's based on merely feelings. Once the feelings fade or they change, you're going to start to doubt that relationship. But if it's based on commitment, that's not going to be the driver. I'm basing this on a choice, and I'm committed myself to you, and I'm going to make choices and decisions that communicate that to you. So it's a big difference of those two. And I think that's a key point there. Do you have anything else you want to say on that part?
No.
Okay.
I just happen to think about the love chapter in 1 Corinthians 13, where it actually tells you what love is.
That's awesome.
That's what I thought about, because none of that is based on feeling.
Correct. It's all choices. All choices of night. Love is patient. Love is kind. Keeps no record of wrongs. Like all those things. Always hopeful. Always trust. Always perseveres.
You have to make a choice to do all those things.
Those are things that you're choosing with God's help.
Correct.
Right? Because that's God's example of love towards us.
Yeah.
So infatuation is also described as that it's weakened by separation. Now love strengthened by separation. So again, we see the two differences here. Infatuation is weakened by separation, where love is strengthened by separation. What comes to you when I share that with you?
Well, I was thinking when we first met, the first time you went to AT
Okay.
when you were in the military and you were gone for a couple weeks.
Yep.
And I remember, I don't know how soon that was because we met in May and I think you went to AT. It was like
I don't
what,
know. It's always,
August, September, something like that.
couldn't tell you.
It was, toward the end of the year, but we had already been together a few months.
Yep.
So at that point, like the separation for me made me want to be with you more.
So it wasn't weekend then?
No.
Okay.
What about for you?
Well, no, I don't think it was weekend at all. I mean, I couldn't wait to get back to you.
That's what I mean.
I mean, I was, some people might think it's infatuation, but I longed for that connection that we had to be together. So that separation, I felt, was something that was actually used to strengthen our relationship.
Yes.
I feel that. So the next point under infatuation is seeking to find happiness, where love is seeking to give happiness.
Mm.
And again, there's very much a contrast here, right? You're either seeking to find happiness or you're seeking to give happiness. So how do you see that playing out?
I just see it as the infatuation list is dating phase.
Okay.
Like that's all to me sounds like characteristics of the dating phase where you're seeking to find happiness. Like people are looking for somebody so they can be happy with them.
Okay.
And when you're actually in love in a committed relationship, understanding what love really is, that it's a choice, then you're seeking to give happiness to the other person.
So I wonder if this list that we're sharing here couldn't be used with someone that may be in a relationship to ask themselves this question. In this relationship, is my desire to seek happiness or is my desire to give happiness? I think that'd be a good question to ask.
Yeah, for sure.
For yourself, like a self-reflection kind of question.
Yeah.
To kind of to gauge yourself. A lot of people are in relationships. They may feel like this is love, but they're not really sure. They're not really confident. Like, is this really love or is this just infatuation?
One, it could be a list that you can use to help yourself mature in certain areas, right?
For sure.
Like to make different choices that are not based on just feeling if you really care about this person. Well, which obviously if you're married, I pray you do care about this person deeply. Might just be just a change in perspective, mindset.
Mind shift, yeah. So the next point under infatuation is focusing on external looks, where love is focusing on internal character.
Well, and that, again, isn't that something that happens in the dating phase, that you're really focused on the external, right? Because that attraction, oh, he looks so good, oh, she's so hot, and this, that, and the next.
Well, when you're first dating, you're not even, well, you tried to do pretty good at getting internal character real early right from the start, which has probably made me question, do you really like me? Because of the interrogation that I was going through. But, babe, come on, let's just be honest. It was an interrogation session for about 2 hours. I was sweating. I couldn't eat.
You were nervous a little bit, but it was good.
You had a little light that you dropped down from the ceiling.
Stop it.
We were in Red Lobster, and you took that light down and you held it over my head. Where were you on August the 16th of 1947? I wasn't even born, but where were you at? Like you wanted to know the truth.
I did, because I was done messing around. I didn't want to date around.
So you came into the game courting. Let's just be honest.
I came in wanting to court.
You were on mission.
Yes, I didn't want to just date around and have fun.
Okay.
So I wanted to get some very important questions answered at the beginning to even see if this was going to be something that I wanted to pursue.
And we're actually going to talk about that in a future podcast when we dig a little deeper into this, of having kind of that game plan before you go into the dating process to help set you up for success. And that's a good point. Don't let me forget that. So the next point is under infatuation is seeking to get, where love is seeking to give. And this kind of ties again with the point above, right? That you're not infatuation, you're seeking to get, where love you're seeking to give. And again, I think it's that question, what is it in this relationship that I'm really attracted to? Because to be honest, in that love phase, it's more pleasurable to give than to get. Like for me, I love to be able to bring joy and happiness to you. Like I love to see us, I talked about it all the time, like I love to see a smile on your face. I love to make you laugh. I like to know that you like me. Like that does something for me. And it's not just getting, it's like this byproduct that happens in our relationship that just works. I did all the talking. You got to tell me something. What we got?
Well, I was just thinking about how, a few months into our relationship that you took me to Vegas.
Oh yeah.
You were like a big, definitely always been a giver
Mm.
in trying to make sure that I was happy
Mhm.
and that you were bringing me joy.
So after 17 years, how do you feel about that? You feel like it's still consistent? Are we still areas of improvement?
You
Like,
want
what's
to
your
take me
take?
back to Vegas? Is that what we're talking about?
I don't want to go to Vegas anymore. I'm kind of like that was
That
then,
was
and this
then.
is now.
We
I
go to a
think
whole new place.
we could. Well, I know where we want to go is Sedona, Arizona, at some
Hmm.
point. God willing, that we'll be able to make that happen.
Yeah. No, I love our life together. I don't have any complaints. I don't have any point in our 17 years being together that I can say I regret my decision of being with you.
Okay.
Like it's always been pretty consistent throughout the years. Like this was always God's plan. Like I just know it.
Mm.
And it takes me back to that moment where I saw your picture that I felt that there was something different about you. It's almost like a knowing before I knew.
Sounds good. So the next point under infatuation is possessiveness or possessive,
Being possessive.
and under love is freeing.
Hmm.
So infatuation, very possessive, very
Probably
God.
controlling.
We talked about that. Well, it's not necessarily controlling.
Well,
Is that, do you consider that controlling?
Possessiveness could kind of look like controlling if you're like trying to have a person do everything with you or that you want to do because you want them with you all the time and you want to be like you want to keep tabs on them all the time. Can be a little weird, a little creepy.
Well, I mean, if you look at it from a negative sense, but I see it kind of a positive sense. Like, okay, I know you're looking at me like I got 4 eyeballs. When we got married,
Mm-hmm.
you were my wife.
Yes.
You're my wife. You are mine.
Mm-hmm.
There was a sense of possessiveness there. No one else. You get what I'm saying? Not in a negative, but in a pop.
Okay.
I'm telling you.
I'm going with you.
Like there was something there that you belong to me at this point. Like the Bible says, I was yours and you were mine, my beloved.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and not in a negative sense.
I get you.
And
Obviously, 17 years later.
even on the freeing side, and that brought freedom to me.
Well, there was the sense of security because there was I'm gonna throw a word out there.
Throw it out there. Let's see where it goes.
There was a mineness, like you were mine and I was yours. That was
you
sealed.
said mindness. I thought you said mindness.
No, mine, like mineness.
Mine.
You were mine and I was yours,
Mhm.
and we kind of sealed the deal that day, where it made it. There was a permanent
It was.
element there,
It was sealed by the Holy Spirit.
and till death was part. Like there was security there, and knowing that we went into that, understanding that there was no divorce. Like we were never going to talk about divorce. We're going to work through whatever came our way. There was always a sense of security. Like even when we had a disagreement, I never had that feeling of insecurity that somebody was going anywhere. Has never been there.
Yeah.
And I attribute that to God because we keep God in the center. And somehow he always makes a way for us to work through everything and keep it moving. So,
Okay. And the final point, the difference between infatuation and love is in love with emotion, in
That's
love
infatuation.
with emotion, which is infatuation, or on the love side, in love with devotion. So you got emotion or devotion. And again, you're in love with that, right? It's kind of got you all consumed. Like in the beginning of the relationship, you are consumed by the way this person makes you feel when you guys are together, when you're sharing and communicating with one another. Like there's a very strong emotion there. And not saying that doesn't happen on the love side, right? But what it is saying, there's a devotion, which again is a choice. I see devotion as a choice. Like I am devoted to only you, right? And it goes, I feel, even so much deeper. And I agree with what you said earlier when we were talking about these things, that infatuation is a big part of the dating process for a lot of people.
It is.
And what I fear is that some people never get past the infatuation stage to the love stage for whatever reason. Like there's many different things.
And that's why it's good, like you said, to ask the question for yourself. If you're listening to this, have I moved out of that infatuation phase into more of the love phase where I'm choosing this person and I will choose this person no matter what.
Mhm.
Like that's love. That's understanding that it's no longer that puppy love that they call right at the beginning, the infatuation stage. Now this is real.
100%. And I think it's good if you're not married yet and you look at this list.
Oh,
I
for
think
sure.
it's good if you've only been married for 6 months or a year. I think this list is even good for us who's been married for a bit, that we can look at this and again use it as kind of a gauge to see if there's areas that we need to, we used the term earlier, mature in.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the truth, right? All of us are still in process. None of us has arrived. You and I share this all the time. Hey, listen, yeah, we picked up some stuff, but we still got a ways to go. The old Joyce Meyer thing that we share all the time, right? I'm not where we want to be, but thank God we're not where we used to be.
Right.
Like we're still in process. And I love that because it keeps us hungry and desiring for better.
Right.
And not just better, God's better.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What God has for us in these relationships. Because God does, He wants us to get to the love side. We were created in the image of God to love. Love your neighbor, right? And we always talk about in a relationship, who's your closest neighbor? When you're married, it's your spouse. And if you're dating, the person you're dating could be your spouse one day.
One day.
But in the process of the relationship that you're building, you need to see them that way. Not how the movies say it's supposed to be, not how the books say it's supposed to be, or maybe even other relationships, right? How does God say it's supposed to be? And there's a scripture up here that I want to share because I think it's awesome. There's two, actually. One of them is from Proverbs 4:23. It says, above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. A heart can lie to us at times because of emotions.
Right.
Right? Even in marriage, sometimes you don't like your spouse because of maybe certain behaviors. Doesn't mean you don't love them.
Right.
So even in those moments where you have a difficult time that you don't like their, okay, I'm going to phrase it. You don't like their behavior.
I was just about to go back and help you with that part. It's not that you don't like your spouse. You don't like behaviors coming out of your spouse at certain times.
Correct. You are my suitable helper, and I thank you for that. You don't like a certain behavior, but you still have a choice to still love them anyway.
Right.
You're actually called to love them anyway. There is a way to respond in that way, even in love. Okay? And you got to be careful because your emotions will take you off course. The second part of the scripture that I want to share is right below it. It says, Acts 20:35. It is more blessed to give than to receive. It is more blessed to give than to receive.
I love that because in marriage and in the dating, if you get more excited about giving instead of receiving, you will find more happiness and more joy in that than always waiting to receive. There are some people that give and then wait to see what the other person's going to do.
It's true.
And sometimes you're disappointed because you're expecting something. You're not. So then you're not doing it with the right intentions. You know, if you just give because you have made a choice to love this person and you're giving and you want to give because you know that it brings this person joy, then just do it for that.
Yeah.
Do it for that and let God reward you because He will. He will.
So, wrapping up the podcast, we talked about infatuation and love. Two different lists, two different characteristics. Well, many different characteristics, but on these two lists to kind of see where you're at, kind of gauge to see if your guys are moving in the right direction.
To see if you've matured through infatuation into the love, the actual love.
Yes.
In a relationship. It's really, really important to look at.
It is.
And not to get scared, right? If you're dating and you're still in this infatuation phase, it's supposed to happen that way. But always knowing that you're moving past this, looking forward to what the next season is going to bring, looking for those characteristics to see if they've matured with the time that you've been together. Now, we always say, like, for us, I mean, I guess that might be the hopeless romantic of me. I like to see people getting married younger than waiting till they're like 30 or 40.
I hope so.
Right?
Yeah.
But really being intentional about dating and understanding what infatuation is, that yes, you're going to feel like this person is perfect, but know that they're not. And that eventually when you move out of the infatuation or the honeymoon phase, you're going to see some of those things that maybe you didn't see on the front side. It doesn't mean you don't love this person and that you haven't moved into love. Now it just means, all right, now we got to work on this to continue feeling that love for the other person throughout the relationship.